Imogen Lamport from Inside Out Style, and I thought I'd come and talk about the new Pantone Colour of the Year. This is something that has been around in the media for the last few days since they announced it late last week. And so I thought I'd talk about what it is and where you might find it, which palettes it's good for, and also some of the other spring, summer, forecast colours that should be coming in soon from the various fashion weeks, one in New York, one in London. So they're calling the colour of the year Viva Magenta. I don't know why they call it Viva Magenta. It's not magenta. I mean, it's more of a raspberry or a cherry red, really, from my looking at it. But anyway, it does have a pink base tone. It is a cooler red. That said, when you look at their products, so this is what they've been describing it as, but when you look at the products they have created in this colour, it actually appears a bit brighter and a bit lighter than this version of it. So this is what I find. You'll always find a myriad versions of any of these colours. So there'll be darker versions, lighter versions, warmer versions, as well as cooler versions. There just always are. I mean, this one is a cooler version. It's quite a, bright raspberry sort of red in the cool tones. It is something we haven't seen anything like this for a little while, particularly not as a colour of the year. So it is kind of an interesting sort of colour that they have chosen. It's supposed to kind of, indicate something about, regrowth and regeneration, but not in the green way that we did a few years ago with greenery, but almost like re-energising. The world is getting re-energised after having been locked down. I assume that's why they have gone there. So let's have a look at some of these were the London Spring Summer Colour Palettes for 2023. So I'll just kind of talk about them, and then I'm going to show you the New York ones as well. So there is some similarities between them, some differences between them. And I generally find, honestly, it takes some time for these colours to really filter through to mass market fashion. If we look at these kind of neutrals, I wouldn't really have put this in as a neutral. It's a little bit more coloured. It's quite a cool minty green, but this is a warm kind of orangish cream. So warm, a cool grey, light grey. So good for cool and light, good for cool and light, good for warm and light. And this is a warm brown, so good for warm. And it's quite mid. It's not too dark, so it could go for all kind of warm palettes. And then we've got a cool navy. We've had a lot of warm navies over the past few years. This is a much cooler navy, this version. And then in these colours, we've got quite fiery red. It's a warmer cherry red. When you compare that to the Viva Magenta, you'll notice how much more blue there is in that Viva Magenta as compared to the tomato cherry. A warm bright red. Then we've got a coral that cuts across a lot of the warm palettes. You'll find that's a good warm kind of corally pinky orange, and another light orange, so good for the light warm palettes. Quite a striking yellow. It's really kind of borderline as far as, it's probably a cooler yellow as far as yellows go, but really a very bright yellow, so good for your bright cools. Then we've got a lime green, again warm and light. Then we've got a little bit cooler, so this kind of more emeraldy sort of colour, and I don't know, I've managed to find this from somewhere that's been translated. I couldn't actually find the English version of this, but that's getting into the cooler greens, so you can see much more yellow in this one. This one's got a little bit more blue in it, so it's still very bright. It's almost on the cusp of what we might call a neutral green, but I still see a hint of blue in it. Then we've got a warm light blue, so it can be worn by both warm and cool. And then a warmish darker blue, again brighter. This one's a little bit softer, this one's a little bit brighter. Then we've got the violet, which is very much a red violet, which does cross over between many warm and cool palettes. And then we have this pink, which it feels like is a hint of warmth in it, like a carnation sort of rose, maybe has a hint of warmth, but what I would suspect is we'll see both warm and cool pinks in this. If we have a look at the spring summer of the New York fashion weeks, now I'm just thinking while I'm watching this, I can't see any comments or anything. The way this is set up, I might have to, yes, it's interesting to see. Nope. Yes, I'm not saying it doesn't show me. The way this thing sets up, it doesn't show you if anybody's watching and if anybody's commenting. So I can't see any comments. Um, can I see comments? Post details? No. It doesn't like. I don't understand the way Facebook does these things when you're on your computer. It makes it really confusing. Oh, and there's no comments yet. That's all right. I can see comments there. So let's talk about the New York one. So it's interesting that you see this warm, soft, light blue in both. They're very similar sorts of blue. This one's probably even a little bit warmer. Perfect for your intriguings and exquisites. Interestingly, I would again put that one into into the colours rather than the core classic, so as a neutral. Versus like they've got the green. Here we've got a blue. We've got this very similar vanilla cream, warm and light, a cool grey. They have what they're calling it leek green. I would say it's much more a soft olive. So again, warm light, perfect for your intriguings, maybe some of your spices as a neutral. And here macchiato, again, another warm sort of brown. So if we compare those two, you can see there's just a little bit lighter, a little bit more yellow in it. Interestingly, their version of fiery red, this one's tomato cherry. Fiery red is cooler. So you can see that this is much more related to the Pantone Colour of the Year than the London Fashion Week. So a cooler, bright red. And we've got a real, they're calling it beetroot purple. It's a hot pink, and it's a cool hot pink. Then we've got a bright orange, so great for your rich and your zesty sorts of palettes. Then we've got, again, this sort of peach coral, which is a little bit softer, so we'll run across quite a lot of the warm palettes. And then we have this kind of, it's an acid green. It's a yellow, acid yellow, where it's got some of that green in it, so it's pushed it into the warmer category, warm and light. Here we've got a warmish light pink, so again, good for your intriguings, your exquisites. Classic green, so this is very much quite similar to this, but a little bit darker and a little bit softer. And again, close to that neutral green, but has that hint of coolness. You can start to see a bit more of the blue in the green. Versus here's this very warm, again, they're calling it lovebird. I'd say it's a lime green. And then here we have a great, I'd actually put this blue probably more into the neutrals if you were going to put as a classic. It's kind of that petrol blue. It's a soft denim sort of blue, a little bit on the cooler side. And here we've got a slightly warmer, lighter version. Again, very smoky and soft compared to, you couldn't wear this blue with this bright orange. The intensity in difference is just too great. So, you can see that there are some of these brighter colours which you could wear together potentially versus you've got some soft colours. So there's a bit of a range of softer versus brighter, and you'll find in the stores you'll get brighter and softer versions of these colours when you are in stores. So that's just a little, preview of some of the colours, which palettes that they may work for. But do keep your eye on. I find you have to get up close, take your palette with you, and then start to have a look at what versions, but they may be some of the colours that you might see. So remember that when you're buying colours and when you're thinking about your palette and buying colours, if I have a palette, I'm just going to grab the one that's on my desk that I happened to have here yesterday. So I've been talking about the Pantone Colour of the Year, Viva Magenta, which is a raspberry red. It's a cool raspberry red. Great for particularly, say, the elegant palette, the dramatic palette, the mysterious palette. They're probably the three that are the most closely aligned. You will find lighter versions that will fit refined and sublime. As well, you will find brighter, softer, and that's the thing. So I was just talking about how you will see there'll be some colours from a palette that are in season and others that aren't. And you'll always find that you'll never be able to go shopping and buy your entire palette in one go. It's just never going to happen. But what you might have noticed when we're looking at those colours of the year is that that you might go, oh, okay, so this season I'm going to get I might get this olivey green. So I'm going to keep my eyes out for pieces in this olivey green. Or this year, maybe this sort of blue was in that selection. I'm going to look for that. Or it could be, oh, maybe it's my, there's going to be a few reds, so maybe I should look for my version of the red. So rather than thinking I'll have the purple and the pink and the violet and the orange and the yellow, and you might be able to find all of them, but it's pretty rare. You'll always find that that there is only ever a few, and it's like the browns look like they're all warm brown. So if you're cool, there's probably going to be less brown options for you, but there are grey options for you. It looks like coming out. So do look at these. These colours of the year. It's just a guideline. And always when you're going shopping with your palette, don't think, oh, I want to go out and buy a purple top or a green top or something in specific. Don't think I have to get that particular colour. Sometimes we want to match something, and so we do have a colour in mind, but rather than having that expectation, I always go and look and see what are the colours that are out this season and which of them fit your palette, and then just expect you'll buy them this season, and maybe next season that colour that you really want will be the one that's in season. Colours come around and go around, so this season you may not be able to buy a particular colour, but next season it may be the colour of that season, and so you'll be able to buy the pieces. And as I say, that the best wardrobes are built over time, and this is because there's no possible way we can have everything all the time out there at any one time. So when you are looking at the colours and you're looking at these colour forecasts, I mean, I did notice this year that Very Perry, which was the colour of 2022, took at least 6 months to really filter down into the shops. So it takes a long time because the fabric manufacturers have to start making it, and then they have to then take, the people who buy the fabrics to make the clothes, they have to go and select it, then the clothes have to be made up. So it takes some time for these predictions and forecasts to filter down. So you'll tend to find that whatever was this year's colours will be still going through until next year, and then somewhere halfway through next year is when you'll see those colour predictions really starting to appear in stores. So I hope that helps you when you are looking to find clothes and to really understand a little bit more about the colours of the season and selecting your colours. Bye for now.